small, that might be a small indication, but it also goes to say how our thought patterns. We can have mistakes that can come about in the community, and they become standard.
Mm-hmm.
They become standard. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
There's the whole thing, there is no honor among thieves. That means that the thieves set up a certain code because the environment around them is, this person here done got over on me, so therefore we all get over on each other because because everybody in this community is the same way. Like, take for instance, I'm up in New Jersey. I met a brother who worked in the prison system. He worked in the jailhouse. In the jailhouse, they get a lot of people, and they have these brothers, they have these some brothers up in there, they were trying to teach these people a certain amount of knowledge and information.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, it's kind of coming kind of hard to say anything to the prisoners. I said, why? He said, because it's such a criminal environment. To when they in there, they're in about survival of the fittest. So if I step to them and say, the white man is this, and you don't need to be doing this because this is the way the game is set up.
Mm-hmm.
He said, by them being on a survival mode, he said they will use the information that I gave them to help them. They will use it as leverage and some form of blackmail or bribery to get something that they want in that survival mode, and they'll use that against me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, so I've had brothers that I've tried to help. And they're in the survival mode. They go, I need this. You go, you can't do that. They're like, well, I'm going to tell the man what you said about the white folks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell the man what you said about this particular policy. So that means you got people that have gone beyond just trying to maneuver and to counter the atrocious system that they find themselves into, to being a part of a victim of that system, whereas in actuality, you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to, they have become to a survival aspect of that system, whereas they become, the end result is, you see what I'm saying? They are basically a part of the system and help fuel that system. Because, you know what I'm saying? Because they've got caught and trapped in it. And all. So it's no more counter. You see what I'm saying?
Right, right.
It's a maneuver to automatically uphold that system. So they help foster that system.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So you go into a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you 3 questions that I observe as a major contributor to the insane psychosis of black people.
Yeah.
First of all, is religion. The black church, because the black church is not what it used to be, number 1.
Right.
The media, number 2, and music. Now, can you expound on them? Start with the religion. Start with the black church, because...
Right. Okay. First of all, the black church used to act as a bridge and a counter-cultural bridge in a society that would actually have a banner, cohesiveness about it that would actually help black people. We turned to this particular institution. We actually made it our own.
Mm-hmm.
We made it conducive, you see what I'm saying, to our therapy. Now that's historical. You know what I'm saying? Because that's all we had. But because it was set up in the beginning as the basis of a tool of conquering.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Of a tool of turning one culture into something totally different by wiping out that culture's existing doctrines of that particular culture, but actually wiping out another person's culture. Ultimately, it would eventually turn into a cancer. And the same people that use that particular tool to raise us up would end up using that tool or being a part of that particular situation that would actually keep us down. So what was good for the first 100 years of from slavery, from 1865 to damn near 1965 or 1975, you see what I'm saying, is now a cancer. You see what it's now a cancer. Because the simple fact is, we as a people, we are 21st century people. And we need to go beyond certain doctrines of survival, you see, to a new paradigm. A new paradigm. And too often, the church's philosophy can be used as something to keep us stagnant, keep us stable, and all this. Some people say, oh, he's just trying to get out of religion. And no, I'm trying to tell you here is the basis of the reason why you got grown people that can't think is because when they was a child, they was taught that they was going to hell.
Now what is hell?
About a thought.
Now what is hell? Now what is this place called hell that keeps people in fear? And because I talk to people every day, and they are afraid to question. They are afraid to venture because they feel some consequence that they're going to suffer.
You got a sister we were just talking to.
Yeah.
Is 53 years old. And 90% of what she learned 58 years ago, 53 years ago, the 90% of the stuff she learned, let's say 40 years ago, you see what I'm saying? 48 years ago, is not even a part of her own thought process.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we learned this at a very early age. Now I'm looking at the psychological ramifications of what I'm trying to say here. She was also taught around the same time that she was learning about the devil and God and Jesus and all of this, and hell, about the boogeyman.
Right.
Everybody was scared of the boogeyman at an early age. They tell you don't go in that black closet, don't cut off the light.
Don't go in the basement.
Don't go in the basement because the boogeyman gonna get you.
Right.
And this was horrific and it was terrifying to us. But as we got older, we learned, you see what I'm saying, that these certain things didn't exist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the only reason why it affected you because you was too young to know that at the time. But you learned that these things didn't exist. Well, it's the same concept with the hell concept. We learned that the hell concept, you go into hell after you die. And all. And these particular concepts, remember that the Hebrews didn't even have it. Like Diop said, until 100 years before so-called Christian era. And they borrowed all that from the Egyptian Book of Gates. Which that concept is not even talking about some place up under the earth. It's talking about conditions of the soul and of the mental process. And an initiation process of the soul, the thought process, and how you illuminate from one level to the other. But we got this hell concept, and we got grown people now that all they had to do to neutralize the fear was learn more about it. Now, give me an example, because I'm still address this. With me, when I started doing the research, I did something that I noticed it never dawned on a lot of black people to do. We have been driven by fear of going to hell, and the devil is our enemy. Although we know that this mythological character don't exist, and but yet we have taken all that is going wrong with us and put it on something that doesn't exist. Because some doctrine or some fool told us that that's the person behind all that goes wrong in your life is Satan.
Right.
So we grew up this particular way. It never dawned on millions of black people, well, why don't you just study Satan? Have an extensive study into Satan and into hell. And had they gone there, they could have neutralized the situation to find out it's something totally different than a boogeyman concept that they learned as a child. That they learned as a child. So in this particular concept and studying these concepts, you get hell, you get the word shell or sheol. Now in Hebrew, let's take the Hebrew version because that's the version in which the Christian version is made up out of. You get the word hell. You get a word sheol in Kabbalah and even in the book of Ethiopian book of Enoch. And in deeper Kabbalah, a Kabbalistic text, you get the word shell, the husk, the shell called kalipoth, or husk, or shell. When you study the esoteric meaning of that, the word, the kalipoth, the husk, the shell, and you get the word hell, the shell means the physical body that houses the soul. The soul is trapped in a physical body and in a dream state of an illusion. So, in the Hebrew aspect, the physical body is hell. So we live in hell because our soul lives into the physical body. Now, if you take the Gnostic, which is pre-Christianity, here it is, the Christians talking about pre-Christianity. Well, that's a contradiction. I thought this only existed when Jesus came. So now you're telling me there was a Christianity that existed before Jesus. That's a contradiction. Well, let's take the Gnostic, which is pre-Christianity, which is actually later-day Egyptian, ancient Egyptian. And they talk about hail, and they said, and Helix. They said Helix is the people that live in Hail. And Helix means physical person, and Hail means physical earth. So you already in hell based on Hebrew and based on pre-Christianity. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Based on pre-Christianity.
Right.
You go to the Greek thing, you get Hades, you get Tartarus. You see what I'm saying? And Tartarus is supposed to be the deepest part of hell, but when you deal with it on a physiological root, Tartarus is the lower gastrointestinal tract. It's still inside of the body. So these are greater concepts that explain states of condition on a spiritual level and a physiological level. And yet, you can get millions of black people and millions of white folks is trapped in this thing just on the basis of ignorance. Just on the basis of ignorance. They're trapped on this. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we live in hell. You see what I'm saying?
Well, that's true, man, because, again, a lot of people have a very skewed perception of the way they see spirituality.
Yeah.
And they equate that connection with religion. And as a result, our people are in a comatose state because they're not thinking. Like, you got some Christians that think that the Israel of the Bible is the same Ashkenazi Jews that's occupying Israel today. And because of that teaching, they support what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians.
Right. I remember one time I was on the train, the subway down in Atlanta, and there was a black woman jumping all over the thing because there was some, she by being in the South, you go up north, you see Jews all the time. You understand what I'm saying? But down south, you don't have the Jews that dress in the various acidic type garb, so you can't tell them from white folks.
Right.
They're all white in the first place.
Right.
But I'm talking about the one that looks a different type of Jew.
Right.
These Jews, for some reason, was at some convention down in Atlanta, and they had on all the black.
Right.
So they were on the train.
Right.
And this black woman, for the first time, old black nigga, this woman had to be in her 50s. This is the first time she identified a Jew outside of somebody saying they're Jewish. Let alone black people, they are not Jews, That's a whole nother story for black people down there. But this is the first time she saw that Hasidic Jew. She jumped all up on the train saying, God bless you, and God bless Israel. Because if Israel falls, the world falls. And I know that my salvation is based on you all surviving in Israel. I'm looking at this goddamn
Miseducated.
ignorant ass nigga woman jumping up with these stink, nasty ass Hasidic Jews with a tradition that don't even resemble nothing that come out of the Bible.
That's right.
You know, and because she doesn't know that these people